Good afternoon, I'm Giovanni Dennis with the Midday News. A special welcome if you're joining us online at onespotmedia.com. Up first, health experts are bemoaning the shortage of the AstraZeneca vaccine at the world's largest manufacturer. But even though it appears all doom and gloom, at least one stakeholder remains optimistic that Jamaica will get more vaccines. Sandy Williams reports.
India is the world's biggest vaccine producer, and it is running out of AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccines. The Serum Institute of India, which is the world's largest maker of vaccines and a critical supplier of the World Health Organization-backed COVAX facility, paused export to COVAX after a devastating surge of infections in India resulted in increased domestic demand. This could spell trouble as several countries, including Jamaica, are depending on India for COVID-19 vaccines amid the continued spread of the virus. Professor of Public Health and Epidemiology Peter Figueroa says the shortage of vaccines from India will slow down Jamaica's inoculation program.
There was already a severe shortage of authorized vaccine available to countries like Jamaica, and with the increase, the surge of cases of COVID in India, they have had to divert a good bit of their supply to looking after their own people, which is understandable. But it does mean that the vaccine that we were hoping to get through the COVAX facility is going to be delayed, and it means that it will slow down our ability to vaccinate our population.
And President of the Medical Association of Jamaica, Dr. Andrew Manning, agrees.
That certainly could impact our supplies of vaccines. Hopefully, when some of our closer neighbors achieve herd immunity, one can only hope that the vaccine supply would improve. But until such time, we have to rely on the measures that have been stated, wearing your mask, social distancing, and people need to comply with these measures. So we can't rely on the vaccines for now. We have to do whatever we can do to bring down the positivity rate.
Professor Figueroa, who is also a member of the World Health Organization's working group on COVID-19 vaccines, says only 4 vaccines have been approved by the global body for use at this time. However, he explains that 2 of the 4 vaccines are not the best options for Jamaica given the cold storage requirements. The WHO had listed the Johnson & Johnson vaccine for emergency use in all countries, but the vaccine has been suspended in the US due to medical concerns. The Ministry of Health was looking to purchase the Johnson & Johnson vaccine under the African Medical Supply Platform, but Professor Figueroa says Jamaica will now have to hope that more vaccines are approved soon.
So we are hoping that the vaccines coming out of China and Russia will soon be pre-qualified by the World Health Organization so that they are authorized and the COVAX facility can then make them available to low and middle income countries, including Caribbean countries. More candidate vaccines are being developed, but there is a serious shortage of available vaccine for us to access.
Meanwhile, Chairman of the National Health Fund, Howard Mitchell, says he is optimistic that Jamaica will get enough vaccines for the local effort despite the lingering uncertainty.
Even with those uncertainties, we find ways to get vaccines, and we're going to continue to find ways to get vaccines. There is a commitment, a solid commitment by the government of Jamaica to ensure that its citizens are vaccinated and protected from COVID-19. And we are pulling all the stops and pushing all the buttons to ensure that.
Sandy Williams, TVJ News.
Jamaica's COVID-19 case count has surpassed the 44,000 mark. The Ministry of Health says 246 cases were confirmed Sunday from 1,045 samples. The country's case count now stands at 44,136. Meanwhile, 4 more persons died from COVID-19 in Jamaica, increasing the death toll to 727. The latest deaths are that of an 81-year-old woman from Clarendon, a 73-year-old woman who lived in Kingston and St. Andrew, a 67-year-old man from St. Catherine, and a 43-year-old man from St. Anne. The number of active COVID-19 cases is now 23,261. To a major development out of the United Kingdom, the Privy Council has dismissed the appeal by the People's National Party in the Trafigura case to have the matter held behind closed doors. In its ruling handed down on Monday, the UK-based Privy Council says the matter should be held in open court to which members of the public have access along with the media. The Trafigura case has been in the courts since 2006. O'Shane Masters reports.
Denied. That sums up the appeal which was made by the 5 appellants in the Trafigura Bahir case to the UK-based Privy Council last month. The appellants, former Prime Minister Portia Simpson-Miller and former Cabinet Ministers Philip Paulwell and Robert Pickersgill, as well as Colin Campbell and businessman Norton Hines, made their submission following the Court of Appeal in Jamaica denying their initial request to have the matter being heard in private. In its ruling, the Privy Council said the nature of the matter under investigation is one which is capable of affecting the polity of the country. This is highly relevant to whether the evidence should be taken in public and was not a matter given undue weight. It noted that there was no material evidence before the court to lead to the conclusion that a public hearing might jeopardize the investigation in the Netherlands or any subsequent investigation or proceedings which might follow in Jamaica. Director of Public Prosecutions Paula Llewellyn says she was not surprised at the ruling by the Privy Council.
It was foreshadowed in the particular submission that we made, and our representative was Andrew Martin Davis in the Court of Appeal. If you look at the Court of Appeal judgment, you will see that a lot of the issues were already passed there. We had done our research at that level, and we did believe, as a matter of law, that the appellants would not have been able to mount a successful appeal in relation to the grounds that they had filed. And if you look at the judgment of the Privy Council, it not only affirmed the Court of Appeal's judgment, but it also, very importantly, I think, vindicates the orders that had been made.
The scandal was brought to the fore in October 2006 by then opposition leader Bruce Golding. The case hinges on the PNP accepting $35 million from Dutch firm Trafigura Bahir, which traded Nigerian oil on the country's behalf. Under Dutch laws, it is illegal for Dutch companies to provide funding to political parties. The National Public Prosecutor's Office of the Netherlands has been trying to get information on the matter since 2007. However, to date, there has not been any information forthcoming from the PNP. The matter went to the Supreme Court on November 15, 2011. The court held that the proper administration of justice demanded a hearing in open court. In a release, President of the PNP, Mark Golding, said he welcomes the opportunity for the information to be provided and for the matter to be disposed of once and for all. Mr. Golding said the information requested by the Dutch authorities should now be provided without delay. Let the truth come out and let the chips fall where they may. As to the next step, DPP Llewellyn says her office will be seeking to have the matter heard at the next available court date.
As far as our records indicate, of an active request that has not yet been fully discharged and completed. So we will be writing to the Registrar of the Supreme Court in order for an appropriate date to be found in the court's calendar to facilitate the hearing of the matter. And I'd also like to say that it would then be for the court to reissue the registrar to reissue summons to the appellant for them to attend.
O'Shane Masters, TVJ News.
And it's now time for a break here on the Midday News, but please stay with us. We'll have much more when you return. Welcome back. We're continuing the news. Chief Education Officer Dr. Casson Troop says the high rate of absenteeism among students is not surprising. Data collected by the Ministry of Education show 25% of the student population island-wide is not attending school consistently or at all. Speaking this morning on TVJ's Smile Jamaica, Dr. Troop said this is due to multiple challenges faced by students.
We anticipated that we would have had challenges with respect to how education is being delivered now. We were never prepared for this. Operating a remote learning environment is totally new to our model of education in Jamaica, especially in public education. And so with that comes these challenges. We have device issues, we have internet connectivity issues, we have adjustment issues. Our teachers have to adjust, the leadership of our institutions have to adjust, our parents have to adjust, and of course our children have to adjust.
She added that generally 75% of students are accounted for. The Minister of Education is expected to address the nation on Wednesday to outline ways to mitigate the challenges.
We are working on our enablers in education. As you know, Jamaica has a very good education system. We have all the appropriate elements in terms of the cornerstone principles of equity, inclusion, sustainability, access, accountability. We have all of those, and we have also the enablers in place, and those are the things my minister will be speaking to. Looking at the governance structure and how we work towards accountability. We're looking at the knowledge base in education, the steep research that we have to do now to make the adjustments for the future for our boys and girls, capitalizing on what the technological world, the digitized world has to offer for our boys and girls.
To other news now, residents of Ito Boreal and Notta Bay St. Mary are calling on the National Works Agency to fix a drain in their community which is posing a threat to motorists and pedestrians alike.
When rain fall, it overflood, run in at the restaurant down there, so run on the road. School children are come from school and walk, and when they reach at the edges, they slide and drop in at the wall. Motor vehicle turn over in at the wall, we have to take them out. The wall now have no railing round it or nothing for sure. For prove, for sure you said this place is a dangerous place.
According to residents, the National Works Agency had previously completed works on the road but did not repair the drains properly.
Because them just dig out a deep hole and put some small pipe crossway the road, pack it on the next side of the seaside, lap it up. When the water come, when the rain fall, it block up the little drain where we carry the water crossway the road. The sun and everything lap up over on the next side of the road. The water can't come up, go through. So the water keeps stagnant there all the while.
They are calling on the National Works Agency to revisit the area and address the issue as soon as possible. In the meantime, Mr. Johnson offered this solution.
Drainage like crossway the road with something, it will carry the water easier because the deepness where they are way down in the seaside and the sea start blash up, it just block up it too, and it can't go through.
There's growing concern among Jamaicans about the possibility of forced COVID-19 vaccination as condition for continued employment. Two prominent attorneys have weighed in on the legal implications surrounding the issue. Codian Barrett reports.
With reports emerging that some workers in the tourist sector have been threatened that they will lose their jobs if they refuse to take the COVID-19 vaccine, Jamaicans have since questioned whether employers have that power. Attorney-at-law Gavin Goff believes some companies might want to make immunization a pre-employment condition so to protect other employees.
It is my view that if you are dealing with people who are in vulnerable positions, who may be immunocompromised, for instance, especially healthcare workers, I personally think that a requirement to be vaccinated could be a lawful condition of employment.
Mr. Goff is of the view that mandatory vaccination is only a matter of time before it becomes the new normal. He says persons who refuse to take the jab, particularly in the tourism sector, faces the risk of being left behind.
If in the future most employers, especially in the hotel sector, are going to be insisting that they are only hiring workers who are vaccinated, where then does that leave the people who do not wish to get vaccinated?
President of the Jamaica Bar Association of Jamaica, Emil Leiber, says an employer cannot order the employee to take the vaccines if it was not a part of the initial contract unless it's made mandatory by the government.
An employer could then rely on a statutory obligation. But outside of that, the employer, in my view, cannot unilaterally modify the terms of employment to require vaccination.
But Mr. Goff also argues that employers might be forced to file lawsuits against employees who infect others in the workplace.
And when those lawsuits start to come, and when employers are, if they are held accountable or held liable for not protecting one employee from another, I think you're going to see some movement in terms of more strict enforcement of these policies.
Cody Barrett, TVJ News.
To news overseas, one person is in custody and will be charged in connection with Sunday's mass shooting in southeast Wisconsin. The U.S. has seen a spike in these incidents in recent weeks, and some officials see it as a second pandemic affecting the country. More from the CNN.
3 people are dead and 2 others severely wounded after shots are fired early Sunday morning at the Summers House Tavern near Kenosha, Wisconsin.
Sounds like one person got removed from the establishment and possibly came back a short time later.
CNN and the Gun Violence Archive consider an incident with more than 4 people shot, excluding the shooter, a mass shooting, and at least 50 have occurred in the U.S. since March 16th, when 8 people were killed at 3 spas in the metro Atlanta area.
I mean, in this last month, it's just been horrifying what's happened. How can you say that's not a public health issue?
On Sunday afternoon, Texas police responded to a shooting incident that authorities say claimed at least 3 lives. As some analysts say, the gun issue defines part of the way the world views the U.S.
Our allies are perplexed and worried about the fact that we can't seem to have a national conversation about the epidemic of gun violence in our country.
Some psychiatrists say these frequent shootings are causing Americans to become more desensitized toward gun violence.
The body naturally responds from the horror and the shock to try to protect ourselves by increasingly becoming numb.
To news and sports, a battle royale looms between imported speedsters Sparkle Diamond and Sir Alton in the overnight allowance contest going over the 5 straight course at Caymanas Park today. Denise Walters reports.
9-5 anti-post to favourite Sparkle Diamond, returning from a 4-month layup, has recently changed barns and is now being conditioned by champion trainer Anthony Nunes. The talented 5-year-old chestnut horse reports well at exercise and will have a piece of equipment change as the figure 8 is added. Despite carrying top weight of 126 pounds, Sparkle Diamond will have joint champion jockey Dane Nelson aboard and could reward his new connections. Meanwhile, Sir Alton, who is now being conditioned by Jason DaCosta, is second in the anti-post odds at 2-1. The 4-year-old Dark Bay Colt, who passed the post first but was disqualified the last time out in November, has not been extensively prepared but will report in good form. Also saddled with 126 pounds, Sir Alton will be ridden by customary jockey Anthony Thomas, the other joint champion, and stepping down in class could return to winning ways. The likes of Laban, Mr. Universe and Money Monster could also have a hand in the outcome. Roger and the Pilot, Drummer Boy and Uncle Vinny complete the rest of the field. The race is set to run at 5 p.m. 8 races are on the card with first post set for 12:40 p.m. Denise Walters for TVJ Sports.
And that's the Midday News. I'm Giovanni Dennis. Join us at 7 for Primetime News. On behalf of the news, sports and production teams, have a good afternoon.